1 inch, what do you mean? The Xiaoao's heart skipped a beat, and a trace of shock emerged on its face. In order to find out the origin of the burning spell, Xiao Yan had asked many people about it, but he had never found any clues. Since the Star Sky tablet already knew about it, why did it say that it didn't know when Xiao Yan asked it? The Star Sky tablet's facial expression returned to normal, and it let out a cold laugh. Without saying anything else, it turned its eyes back to the isolated spatial zone. When it saw this, the Xiaoao swallowed its saliva, gritted its teeth, and turned its head away, no longer looking at the tragic scene that was happening in the isolated spatial zone. Kiera? Raising its head, the Xiaoao was just about to placate Kiera when it was stunned to find that this little girl had unknowingly disappeared from beside it. The Xiaoao suddenly looked towards the isolated space. On the path that Xiao Yan had flown out from, a beautiful figure suddenly appeared and forcefully hugged him. Kiera? Xiao Yan forcefully swallowed a mouthful of blood. When he saw the girl who appeared from the space, he smiled bitterly and said, "Why did you come in?" As he spoke, Xiao Yan flipped his arm and held Kiera in his arms. His figure suddenly moved, and an Origin Chi sharp blade shot towards him. Star Sky Tablet, bring her out. Taking advantage of the gap between them, Xiao Yan shouted angrily. The spatial zone was constantly twisting. Under the effect of the Quietus Monarch burning flame, he was almost targeted by the entire spatial zone. The flowing power spell was greatly restricted. "Don't. I'm not going out." Kiera hurriedly spoke when she heard Xiao Yan's voice. She stretched out her small hand, and the source energy in her palm circulated, flattening the traces of the spatial zone flowing in Xiao Yan's direction. Xiao Yan's heart trembled. As the traces in the spatial zone faded away, his movements became more fluid, and the casting of the flowing power spell became much smoother. I can help you." Kiera pursed her red lips when she saw Xiao Yan looking at her in surprise. Her eyes were filled with determination. This little girl is getting more and more familiar with the usage of the spatial origin Qi. Xiao Yan sighed in his heart and nodded his head heavily. Back in the 4 Academies competition, Kiera had obtained the method to control the spatial ability from the Star Moon Island. All these years, her achievements had really impressed him. Seeing Xiao Yan nod his head, Kiera was slightly delighted in her heart. Her beautiful eyes swept across and saw Qi Zhang, who was casually thrown to the ground. Tears instantly appeared in her eyes. In the distance, when Kiera entered, Ji Wuchuan paused for a moment. When he saw that Xiao Yan was able to move even more freely, an endless ferociousness immediately surged onto his skeleton-like face. "Damn thing. If I had known earlier, I would have killed you first." He had also heard of how difficult it was to deal with a person who possessed a spatial origin Qi. His innate ability to sense space had given him a high chance of stepping into the Heavenly Sovereign, allowing him to touch the barrier of space even faster. There were obvious differences between the strong and the weak when it came to the Heavenly Sovereign. The mastery of the Heavenly Tao was only the lowest level, but whether or not one could grasp the power of space, it was a requirement for a higher Heavenly Sovereign. Currently, he was only slightly proficient in the Heavenly Tao, and could not be considered to have reached the major completion. As for his mastery of the spatial zone, it was even more difficult to talk about it. However, why do I feel that the flames of that brat are so strange? Ji Wuchuan shifted his gaze to the 4 colored flames surrounding Xiao Yan and muttered to himself. Although he felt that it was strange, he would never believe that a person could possess 4 types of monarch flame. How was this possible? Even in the ancient times, Old Man Xing Luo could only barely control 3 types of Old Man Xing Luos by relying on his tyrannical strength and star cauldron. Hence, he was more willing to believe that Xiao Yan possessed 4 types of powerful Xiao Yans. "Xiao Yan, do you have any method? When I was outside, I heard that old grandpa say that this battle is related to the cultivation technique in your body." Kiera, who was beside Xiao Yan, said softly. Facing Ji Wuchuan's might, she could not help but feel a sense of oppression. Cultivation technique? Xiao Yan was stunned. What did this have to do with the burning spell? Bang! Before he finished his words, the roaring origin Qi once again pressed down on him. Xiao Yan's expression changed. He pushed Kiera far away and used his body to resist it. Gotcha! His sternum shattered once again. Xiao Yan coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and flew backwards. The Heavenly Monarch fire-burning body's effect had reached its final stage. Although the sequela was not as terrifying as before, it was still unbearable pain for the current Xiao Yan. He really could not use the Fire Lotus. If something were to happen to Qi Zhang here, how could he face Kiera? Shoo! 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 The 4 monarch flames turned into a fire curtain as they pounced towards Ji Wuchuan. Within the latter's sunken eye sockets, Terminator Emperor Fen was like a skeleton as he once again stepped forward. He violently collided with the 4 monarch flames. Every time they clashed, Ji Wuchuan's head felt as if it was being twisted by a knife. Something's not right. An ordinary beast fire would definitely not have this kind of power. After using the Quietus Monarch burning flame many times, black blood had already flowed out of Ji Wuchuan's eye sockets. Back then, in order to subdue the Quietus Monarch burning flame, he had endured the intense pain and lost half of his face. He had to blow up one of his eyeballs before he could put the flame back into his eye sockets. Even now, he had yet to fully refine it. Every time he used the flame, the nerves in his eye sockets would tremble violently. Even his head was buzzing, although it was very powerful. He would only be able to kill 1,000 enemies and lose 800 of his own. After he stepped into the Heavenly Sovereign, the intense pain was finally alleviated. When he used the power of the Heavenly Tao to cast the Quietus Monarch burning flame, the power of the Quietus Monarch burning flame increased exponentially. Even the flames of the Holy Beast couldn't match his Monarch flame. Unless this beast fire was the flame of an ultimate saint-grade Holy Beast. But was this possible? If this bastard in front of him had the flame of a Holy Beast, he would rather believe that within these 4 flames, there was a true Monarch flame. Die! More and more blood appeared in his eye sockets. Ji Wuchuan's face was ferocious. The Quietus Monarch burning flame seemed to cover every corner of this spatial zone, and the spearhead was pointed at Xiao Yan. Kiera protected Qi Zhang tightly. She could only watch helplessly as the dense white flames closed in and swallowed Xiao Yan. The Xiaoao's eyes were red. It was isolated from the spatial zone. The dense white flames blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Even the star Luo stone cauldron made a soft sound. Xiao Yan's figure was completely swallowed. Ji Wuchuan had completely lost his patience. He wanted to kill Xiao Yan even if he was seriously injured. On the side, the star sky tablet had a cold expression. Its eyes were staring at the scene within the isolated spatial zone. Although the Quietus Monarch burning flame was ranked 17th on the Monarch flame list, not to mention, after the enhancement of the Heavenly Tao, it was incomparable to Xiao Yan's 4 half-baked Monarch flames. Ji Wuchuan was also an alchemist, and the strength he displayed was even more terrifying than what he had imagined. Within the thick white flames, 4 Monarch flames were protecting Xiao Yan's body. The fire was weak, but Xiao Yan had them. The yin-yang fusion origin Qi could resist the power of the Heavenly Tao, but they did not. Under the pressure of the Quietus Monarch burning flame, they were in a precarious situation, as if they would dissipate at any time. Cough cough. Xiao Yan's lips turned pale. The Quietus Monarch burning flame didn't bring about a burning sensation. It was a destructive force that sent chills down one's spine. This force penetrated deep into his body, as if it wanted to kill him from the depths of his body, turning him into a dead silence. Skill. Burning spell. His mind maintained the last bit of clarity. 4 Monarch flames entered his body, carrying the last of the yin and yang fused origin Qis, crazily devouring the Quietus Monarch burning flame that entered his body. The burning spell circulated continuously, bringing energy and motivation to the 4 Monarch flames. The 5 types of Monarch flames treated Xiao Yan's body as the last battlefield, and they started killing crazily. The overflowing energy caused Xiao Yan's face to turn pale, and he was engulfed by the white flames. If the star sky tablet still didn't attack, it seemed like it could only wait for its death. Clang! Suddenly, within Xiao Yan's body, the burning spell suddenly changed. At the same time, the map of the burning spell that was deeply imprinted in Xiao Yan's mind suddenly shattered and turned into an indescribable purple-gold fragment. In a vast space, the purple and gold fragment rippled in the dark void, and the purple and gold light it gave off lit up the entire space like it was daytime. Above the fragment was an indescribable feeling of vastness and majesty. Xiao Yan stood in the void and looked in the direction of the purple-golden fragment. The confusion in his eyes was gradually replaced by clarity. This was his space of consciousness. The purple golden fragment was glowing in his space of consciousness. The burning spell was the cultivation technique he cultivated. The essence of all cultivation techniques was a different kind of origin chi circulating in his meridians. There were countless meridians and limbs in his body. Different cultivation techniques caused the origin chi to flow through different meridians. The same was true for the burning spell. As the burning spell's root map collapsed in his mind, the energy contained in the burning spell had completely turned into a purple gold fragment. The cultivation technique contained a myriad of things. The human body was an incomparably rich treasure vault, and the meridians were even more mysterious in connecting to the human body. With the help of the cultivation technique, people would cultivate different meridians. The origin chi would circulate through the meridians and eventually enter the origin monarch crystal. This was the effect of the cultivation technique. And now, this effect was no longer limited to Xiaoyan's body. After breaking free from the restriction of the meridians, it turned into a purple gold fragment. The meridians flowing through the origin chi were still the root of the burning spell's meridians. However, with the help of the monarch flame to increase his own strength, as well as various other functions, they were all condensed into purple gold fragments that strangely appeared in Xiaoyan's mind. In other words, the burning spell was just an inanimate object in the past. It was recorded on the scroll, and it could be used for anyone to cultivate. But now, everything about the burning spell. Unless Xiaoyan could extract the fragment out of his space of consciousness. Or else, even if there was a truly powerful expert who could kill him. It was also impossible to trace anything back to the meridians in his body, thus obtaining even the slightest bit of information about the burning spell. This was the first time Xiaoyan saw the purple golden fragment, and it had suddenly appeared in his mind. He didn't know where the words came from. This kind of obscure introduction made him at a loss. What the burning spell had given him after it had been condensed into a purple gold fragment was unknown. The 4 monarch flames and quietus monarch burning flame had turned his body into a battlefield. No one knew what kind of changes had happened to the burning spell that had condensed into such a purple gold fragment. Swoosh! Swoosh! Suddenly, the light on the fragment shone brightly. Xiaoyan's vision turned black, and he was forced to retreat. He caught a glimpse of the 4 colors that had appeared on the fragment. They were red, golden, blue, and brown. They seemed to correspond with the colors of the 4 types of monarch flames that he possessed. Buzz! The moment Xiaoyan opened his eyes, the origin chis around him suddenly roared wildly. The Xiaoyans crazily rushed into Xiaoyan's body, causing the white flames to wail. It was swaying in pain like a beast whose throat had been choked. Within Xiaoyan's body, the quietus monarch burning flame, which was originally on par with the 4 quietus monarch burning flames, seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. The instant the large amount of origin chis swarmed forward, it became dispirited. It was instantly swallowed by the 4 ferocious monarch flames. Ah! In the distance, Ji Wuchuan suddenly let out a miserable cry. The quietus monarch burning flame in his eye sockets started burning violently as if it was out of his control. The flames spilled out from his eye sockets. Half of his face, which was originally filled with white bones, was burning crazily. The flames were like poisonous snakes, wrapping around him in an instant. What's going on? Xiaoyan's eyes widened when he saw that all the white flames around him had retreated. With Ji Wuchuan's ability, even if he hadn't completely refined the quietus monarch burning flame, he wouldn't let the latter suddenly betray him. In the outside world, the star sky tablet was staring at Ji Wuchuan. The white flames had completely covered the latter, and he could only hear painful roars. The sudden change had made his expression turn serious. Unlike the shock of the Xiao Owl, the star sky tablet was also shocked. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart, and a flash of clarity appeared in his mind. However, it couldn't say anything. Xiaoyan's cultivation technique. Although he had seen some unusual signs, if he really had to say something. His memories seemed to have been sealed, and the words were just about to come out of his mouth. However, no matter what, he couldn't say anything. It was as if these words. They could not be tolerated in the great world. Save! Save me! Ji Wuchuan was trapped in the flames, unable to use his heavenly ability. He howled in pain, his miserable cries lingering in the air. Swoosh! The star sky tablet's expression was grave. Its body suddenly disappeared. When it reappeared, it had already arrived beside Xiaoyan. Before the latter could react, it pressed down on Xiao Yan's head and said in a deep voice, "Don't move." Xiao Yan was startled in his heart. When he heard the rare solemn voice of the Star Sky Tablet, he immediately did not move. He allowed the latter to place his hand on his head. After a long time, Ji Wuxuan's painful roar became louder and louder. Only then did the Star Sky Tablet let out a long cry. He took a deep breath and lifted his palm from Xiao Yan's head. His eyes were filled with endless shock. How is it? Xiao Yan's heart trembled when he saw the Star Sky Tablet's expression. The sudden change in the burning spell had made him nervous. The backlash from the Quietus Monarch burning flame had nothing to do with the changes in the burning spell. Take a look for yourself. The Star Sky Tablet's facial expression twitched as he said in a deep voice. Ah! Before Xiao Yan could react, his head suddenly hurt. It was as if it was about to explode. A purple gold fragment the size of a palm surged out from between his brows. The moment it surged out, the purple gold light that covered his body was suddenly withdrawn. There was no aura that flowed out. Looking at it, he saw that on the purple golden fragment. When the fragment appeared, the white flames in the distance seemed to have sensed it and shrunk rapidly. The raging flames that filled the sky instantly dissipated, turning into a flame the size of a fingernail. It merged into the purple gold fragment, and the moment the Quietus Monarch burning flame merged into it. Hong Long. In the distance, Ji Wuxuan's skin and flesh had been burnt to ashes. He fell straight down like a burnt coal, completely devoid of any qi. Even though he had the protection of the heavenly Tao, he still couldn't fight back after being devoured by the frenzied monarch flame. What's going on? Everything in front of him had completely exceeded Xiao Yan's understanding. Ji Wuxuan's sudden death and the Quietus Monarch burning flame merging into the fragment was something he couldn't believe if he didn't see it with his own eyes. Kiera, who was standing below, was also stunned. After a moment, she looked at Xiao Yan with respect and tears of joy on her small face. Your cultivation technique. Did you have any changes in the past? For example, transforming into something. The Star Sky Tablet pondered for a moment before probing. Changes? Xiao Yan's eyes became blank when he heard this. He suddenly recalled the first time he saw Wu Shaoqi's Fire Emperor scripture. The burning spell seemed to have changed and turned into a vast ancient book. Fireman, who was formed by the Fire Emperor scripture, trembled at the ancient book as if he was a subject of an emperor. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan didn't dare to hide anything from her. He told her everything in his mind. Whether he could recognize the burning spell or not depended entirely on the Star Sky Tablet. A scroll. After listening to Xiao Yan's explanation, the Star Sky Tablet's pupils constricted. A clear light flashed through his mind, but when he thought about it again, he couldn't think of anything. I guess, your cultivation technique doesn't belong to a great world. I'm afraid it has something to do with the outer world. Furthermore, it involves the monarch flame. Speaking up to this point, the Star Sky Tablet took a deep breath. 36 types of monarch flames had fused into one. It was definitely the most powerful sacred item in a great world. There was no doubt about it. Xiao Yan's cultivation technique was related to this sacred item. It was definitely not something simple. Just from the fact that this fragment was able to absorb the Quietus Monarch burning flame, it could be seen that there was almost no problem with his previous guess. 0 inches outer world? It's heaven? Xiao Yan's heart trembled. He had thought of the mysterious origin of the burning spell, but he had never thought that it would be an object that transcended the great world. But now that he thought about it, it was exactly the same. All the monarch flames had merged into one. It was a sacred item that deserved its name. As for the cultivation technique that could devour these monarch flames, no matter what, it was definitely not an ordinary item. It's not just the heavens. The Star Sky Tablet raised its eyelids and drew a circle with its finger, saying, "The heavens are only a part of the outer world's sky, but their position in the outer world is high and mighty. Because there is only one. Only a place like the heavens, as well as the recognition of the heavens, can allow one to travel from the outer world to the great world." Buzz. Xiao Yan's mind was shaken. It was indeed too shocking to hear such news from the Star Sky Tablet. This also meant that there would be an even more powerful existence in the outer world? When he had just entered the heavenly Medicine Mountain range, the Star Sky Tablet had mentioned it. Heavens, a place like the bright divine domain. It was located in a different spatial zone outside of the great world. Now that he thought about it, this so-called different spatial zone should be the outer world. From the Star Sky Tablet's words, Xiao Yan could hear some clues. Only those who had obtained the recognition of the heavens could come to the great world from the outer world, although there might be some restrictions that he didn't know about. However, since the lords and guardians of the various regions could come down freely from the outer world, it was likely that even in the outer world, their status was an extraordinary existence. Then, what exactly is the burning spell? Back to the main topic, Xiao Yan asked doubtfully. The purple golden fragment had absorbed the Quietus Monarch burning flame, but his strength had not increased at all. This was completely different from the burning spell's ability. If the Monarch flame had no effect on his strength, would the burning spell still be the original burning spell? I'm not sure, but I'm sure it won't be a small matter. The Star Sky Tablet narrowed its eyes and continued, look at the color on it. It's exactly the same as the few Monarch flames you have. When all the Monarch flames are gathered, perhaps you will know. Collect all the Monarch flames? Hearing this, Xiao Yan immediately let out a helpless moan. He had spent an unknown amount of effort and luck to obtain these Monarch flames. The difficulty of gathering all 36 types of Monarch flames would probably not be lower than the explosion of the 9th Apostle's land. There are still many secrets in this place. You should observe carefully for the rest of the time. Hopefully, you will discover something. The Star Sky Tablet's brows were tightly knitted. After the purple gold fragment absorbed the Quietus Monarch burning flame, it had already recovered its calm. It rotated once in the air. Before Xiao Yan could react, it had already entered the spot between his brows once again. However, with this thing, it will be much easier to suppress the Monarch flame in the future. He touched the space between his eyebrows and thought of Ji Wuchuan, who had been burned to death by his Monarch flame. Xiao Yan laughed bitterly. If he met someone who possessed a Monarch flame in the future, the appearance of the burning spell would immediately cause the opponent's Monarch flame to suffer a backlash. This kind of effect, just thinking about it, made him feel excited. It's not as simple as you think. Glancing at Xiao Yan, the Star Sky Tablet said in a deep voice, although this thing is related to the Monarch flame, but now, it's just a fragment. If it wasn't for the fact that he could only suppress the Quietus Monarch burning flame with his origin chi, I don't think he would have suffered such a backlash so easily. After a pause, the Star Sky Tablet sneered, if you encounter a fellow who can absorb the Monarch flame, you'll have to take it back to me. It'll take a lot of effort. Also, the ownerless Monarch flame became even more violent. That kind of power is not something that can be imagined. After listening to the Star Sky Tablet's words, Xiao Yan silently nodded his head and accepted the joyful thoughts. Up until now, among the few Monarch flames he had obtained, other than the Chaos Great Monarch flame, the 3,000 Lightning Monarch flames had grown because of the 9 profound Golden Thunders. Refining Monarch Hai Tianyan and the 1,000 Leaves Ancient Monarch fires had all come from Elder Yi. Up until now, he had yet to obtain even a single ownerless Monarch flame. Without realizing it, he had already somewhat underestimated the power of the Monarch flame. Back in Fighting Chi Continent, the demon saint who had transformed from the purifying demonic lotus flame had killed almost all of them. If the Monarch flame had gained sentience, it would have been even more terrifying. The fire spirit of the 1,000 Leaves Ancient Monarch fire. If his teacher hadn't made the breakthrough at the critical moment, he might have died there a long time ago. There's still some time left before the pill competition breaks through. Don't cause any trouble during this period of time. Just stay there obediently. The Star Sky Tablet acknowledged its fear and kept the Star Luo stone cauldron. The Xiao Ao, which had been impatient for a long time, immediately rushed over. When it saw Xiao Yan, it was so excited that it could not speak. Kiera's brother's face was pale. Although his breath was weak, his life was not in danger. With Ji Wuchuan's strength, he was naturally very familiar with the qi. He knew how much force it would take to make a person faint. On Ji Wuchuan's charred corpse, Xiao Yan found a storage ring as expected. The master was already dead, so the soul mark in the storage ring was naturally very fragile. It was easily broken by Xiao Yan. He took a glance at the space inside the storage ring. There were quite a few precious medicinal ingredients, which made Xiao Yan feel relieved. With so many herbs, it was enough for him to choose what kind of medicine pill he wanted to refine. As for the other cultivation techniques or monarch skill, Xiao Yan was too lazy to look at them. Although this old man also had the holy arts, but that's not what he's worried about now. The Xiaoao happily put Ji Wuxuan's corpse away. With the help of the god-devouring bone sect, he longed for the corpse of a heavenly sovereign warrior. This was a true combat strength. If he took it out, it would definitely be a strength that couldn't be underestimated. For there was already a corpse of Lei Xingtian in his god-devouring bone sect. If he could take it out just now, he would be afraid of Ji Wuxuan. Unfortunately, the words of the Star Sky Tablet shattered his thoughts. Xiao Yan did not stay for long. He left with Kiera and Qi Zhang. There were countless powerful souls here. He did not have the mood to confront another heavenly sovereign. As for the Star Sky Tablet, it also felt exhausted after entering the Heavenly Medicine Mountain range. It entered Xiao Yan's body together with the Xiaoao and did not say anything else. After stopping at a relatively hidden cliff, the two of them did not look for another place. In this place, any concealment was meaningless. They could only hope as much as possible that no one came looking for trouble. Kiera took care of Qi Zhang with great care every day. Xiao Yan had also refined quite a number of recovery medicine pills for him and treated it as a hot hand. After arranging the strength medicinal ingredients in Ji Wuxuan's storage ring, Xiao Yan also drew out the medicine pills that he wanted to refine in his mind. From Ji Wuxuan's perspective, there were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the pill competition this time. There were probably a few people who possessed monarch flames as well. After all, it was the pill competition of a region. There were even great medicine pill masters from other regions who had come. Xiao Yan was not surprised that they possessed Xiao Yans. And if one wanted to stand out from these people, they could even reach the top 3. The grade of these medicine pills must be at the 8th grade. As for how to break through the shackles of the soul and reach the ancient stage, this would probably require the strength of the Quietus Monarch Burning Flame. One in the space of consciousness, the purple golden fragment was sitting in the center like an emperor. Under the purple golden light, 5 different colored flames were burning gently. Xiao Yan stood below in silence for a whole day. The Star Sky Tablet had asked him to carefully sense the purple golden fragment, hoping that he could get some information from it. Without needing him to say anything, Xiao Yan couldn't wait to get some information from the purple golden fragment. The sudden change of the burning spell had stunned him. After absorbing the Quietus Monarch Burning Flame, there was no response. How could this be? The burning spell was powerful because it could absorb the energy of the Monarch Flame, which could increase his strength. Now that he had lost this ability, he couldn't help but feel anxious. Vaguely, Xiao Yan felt that the Star Sky Tablet knew something, but it seemed to be afraid of something. It didn't say anything that was very important to him. If the Star Sky Tablet didn't say anything, Xiao Yan wouldn't foolishly ask about it. The mutation of the burning spell had shocked the former, and it seemed like he had seen through something. Since he didn't want to say it, it meant that he had some concerns. Furthermore, the current Xiao Yan could vaguely sense some of the boundaries of the heavenly Tao. Just like what Sung Yintang had said, the heavenly Tao was profound and shouldn't be exaggerated. Xiao Yan also tried to use his soul force to touch the purple gold fragment, but it was like a stone sinking into the ocean. There was no echo at all. After trying for a moment, he had no choice but to give up. After calming down, Xiao Yan finally understood the situation of the burning spell. In his body, the burning spell's circulation route was still there. There was no change in the essence of his cultivation technique, but the function and energy of the burning spell had been condensed into this fragment. It could be said that this fragment was the core of the burning spell. Facing the purple golden fragment, Xiao Yan had used almost all of his means. Yin and Yang merged with the origin Qi. He used the 4-Spirit Emperor technique, the 8 powers, and even the 2 holy arts that he had mastered. In front of the purple golden fragment, he was just like a clown. The latter did not react at all. Damn it! Xiao Yan's face turned pale. He couldn't help but curse. What did the burning spell become? When he first came to the Great World, the burning spell had automatically transformed into a cultivation technique of the Great World. This had made him feel that something was wrong, but it was still under his control. Why hadn't there been any movement at all? In the past, after absorbing the Monarch Flame, the level of the burning spell would increase tremendously. He could clearly sense that everything had been taken away by the purple golden fragment this time. It was as if the burning spell was not under his control. Spit it out! The nameless fire in his heart erupted. Xiao Yan rushed forward. Just as his palm was about to touch the purple gold fragment, the purple gold light surrounding the fragment shook violently and sent it flying. No matter how great a holy object you are, you can still act tyrannically in my space of consciousness. The chi and blood in his body rumbled. Instead of being angry, Xiao Yan laughed. At least, the purple golden fragment had a slight reaction. It was no longer as motionless as before. Hong! Once again, Xiao Yan lunged forward. Facing the purple golden light, he punched out with a terrifying force, causing the bones in his hand to dislocate. The huge pain made Xiao Yan suck in a breath of cold air. After staring at it for a moment, Xiao Yan hesitantly stretched out his hand. His 5 fingers slowly extended towards the purple golden light. This time, the impact was unexpectedly small. It easily passed through the purple golden light and touched the purple golden fragment with his fingertips. Kai! As soon as his finger touched the purple golden fragment, the latter suddenly shook. Then, under Xiao Yan's astonished expression, the fragment changed rapidly and finally changed into its appearance. Xiao Yan couldn't help but be startled. What appeared in front of him was a vast ancient book. However, this ancient book was in tatters and only had a few pages. As the ancient book slowly opened, Xiao Yan held his breath and concentrated. Upon closer inspection, there were only 6 pages in total. 5 of the pages were inscribed with a monarch flame. The last page was a humanoid flame holding a scepter. The human-shaped flame was like an emperor, with a crown on his head. He wore an imperial robe and seemed to have the pride to look down on the world. Xiao Yan's heart couldn't help but pound when he saw the human-shaped flame. This thing seemed to be the fire spirit formed by the Fire Emperor scripture Wu Shaoqi cultivated. When Wu Shaoqi obtained the inheritance of Flame Lord in illusory spirit space, it was extremely difficult for her to cultivate the Fire Emperor scripture. After meeting him, the burning spell and Fire Emperor scripture suddenly had a reaction. The fire spirit formed by the Fire Emperor scripture was this flaming human figure. And what was formed by the burning spell was the vast ancient book in front of him. Finally, the fire spirit that was condensed from the Fire Emperor scripture shot out a beam of fiery light into the vast ancient book. Could it be this thing? While Xiao Yan was still in a state of shock and bewilderment, a page of the ancient book opened. It was the Quietus Monarch burning flame that he had swallowed earlier. On this page, the Quietus Monarch burning flame was vivid and lifelike. Beside it, the white characters of the flame kept jumping, showing all the information about the Quietus Monarch burning flame. Quietus Monarch burning flame. 36th Heavenly Records, 17th Record. There seemed to be a few characters of flame in front of the 36 words. No matter how Xiao Yan looked at them, he could not see them clearly. Not only this page, but the few characters of flame on the other pages of the Monarch flame were all blurry. On the page with the flame humanoid figure, there was another sentence, the 12th scripture of the 18 Earth scripture. In front of the 18th, there were still a few words that could not be seen clearly. No one knew what was written. Xiao Yan's heart was suddenly shaken when he saw this scene. His eyes stared intently at the page. It was a long while later before he inhaled a deep breath of air. He seemed to have understood the meaning of these 2 sentences. The monarch flame was divided into 36 types. The corresponding monarch flame should be the so-called 36 heavenly records. The Quietus Monarch burning flame was ranked 17th beside the monarch flame. It was just in line with the 17th record. Looking at it this way, the 12th scripture of the 18 Earth Sutra. Did this mean that the Fire Emperor scripture was ranked 12th in the so-called 18 Earth Sutra? Thinking of this, Xiao Yan's heart raced even faster. His throat was dry, and even his forehead was covered in sweat. This burning spell was just like what the Star Sky Tablet had said. It was definitely not an ordinary item. Flame Lord's Fire Emperor scripture was one of the most powerful cultivation techniques in the ancient era, and it was only ranked 12th in the so-called 18 Earth scriptures. Then, how powerful was the top 3, or even the number 1 cultivation technique? In the outer world, there was a mysterious place. How did the burning spell come into being? And why did it spread to the Fighting Qi continent and was obtained by his teacher? Now, Xiao Yan could basically confirm that the Fire Emperor scripture was one of the branches of the burning spell. If he wanted to completely restore the vast ancient book in front of him, he would not only need to collect all 36 types of monarch flames, but also all 18 of the agriculture scripture. However, his intuition told him what the words before the 36 and 18 words were. These words must be the true name of the burning spell. Zero, the ancient book in front of him, was flipping quietly. The flames on it were vivid and lifelike. Staring at the page that recorded the Quietus Monarch burning flame, Xiao Yan's finger moved slightly. Finally, he couldn't help but raise his hand. Unlike the other 4 pages of Monarch Flame, the Monarch Flame on this page seemed to have substance, and only its shape didn't have its own spirit. This caused Xiao Yan's heart to stir, and he tried to discover something. Kai, when his finger touched this page, it was as if the Quietus Monarch burning flame had found a vent. Waves of frightening energy crazily surged into Xiao Yan's fingertip, following the burning spell path in his body like a flood that broke through the barrier. In an instant, a mass of white flames that couldn't be seen began to form in Xiao Yan's body. Hong Long, the moment his finger touched this page, it was as if the Quietus Monarch burning flame had found a vent. Waves of terrifying energy crazily surged into Xiao Yan's fingertip, and following the burning spell path in his body, it was like a flood that broke through the barrier. Woo! In the outside world, Xiao Yan, who had his eyes closed for a whole day, suddenly let out a painful groan, startling Kiera, who was standing beside him. She looked over with her beautiful eyes, and when she saw Xiao Yan's appearance, a trace of shock immediately emerged on her small face. A thick white flame appeared out of nowhere and completely wrapped around Xiao Yan. Like a multicolored light, it shrank into Xiao Yan's body from time to time, then burst out at the same time. Xiao Yan, who was in the middle of the flame, had a pale face. Although his body wasn't damaged in the slightest, the pain that rose from the bottom of his heart made him wish he was dead. The Xiao Yi had a solemn expression. Looking at the slowly growing white flame in front of him, he wanted to make a move to reduce Xiao Yan's pain. However, this wisp of Quietus Monarch burning flame seemed to have isolated the space. Its physical body couldn't touch it at all. Instead, it continued to burn Xiao Yan's body. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. While the white flame was burning, Xiao Yan's qi was also rising at an extremely slow speed. Before long, the qi of 5,000 peak monarch cultivation warriors had spread out. Kiera's pretty face changed slightly. Qi Zhang was unconscious. If Xiao Yan's action attracted the attention of others, it wouldn't be a good thing for the 3 of them. The Xiao Ao also came out of Xiao Yan's body. It was anxiously scratching its ears and cheeks, just like the Xiao Yi. He also could not intervene. He felt that Xiao Yan's qi was getting stronger and stronger. He should have been happy, but now he was anxious and helpless. Swoosh! A figure flashed past. The star sky tablet appeared in Xiao Yan's body with a solemn expression. Without saying a word, he waved his hand and the star luo stone cauldron appeared once again, isolating this space from the outside world, just like how Xiao Yan had fought Ji Wuchuan. The Xiao Ao and Kiera heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the star sky tablet attack. This way, at least no one would be able to notice it. Senior, what happened to Xiao Yan? Kiera was anxious in her heart. She hurriedly opened her mouth and spoke. There was a trace of tears in her voice. Xiao Yan had been seriously injured in the battle with Ji Wuchuan in order to save Qi Zhang. Now that he had encountered an accident, she felt extremely uncomfortable in her heart. He won't die. The star sky tablet frowned and coldly threw out 2 words. Then, it stared at Xiao Yan with a serious expression. The expression on its face changed, and it was impossible to guess what he was thinking. Kiera had also seen the temper of the star sky tablet. When she heard the latter say this, her heart immediately relaxed. Her eyes were filled with worry as she looked at Xiao Yan. Burning spell. Did you successfully comprehend it? As she muttered to herself, the star sky tablet's expression became incomparably solemn. This white flame was enough to prove that Xiao Yan had started to devour the energy of the Quietus Monarch burning flame. It's good that I can reach the Heavenly Sovereign as soon as possible. However, I wonder if I can succeed in passing through this origin qi that has merged with yin and yang. The star sky tablet gently nodded. It sighed and sat cross-legged in the air. From the looks of it, it was obvious that it would not enter Xiao Yan's body before he woke up. With the star sky tablet watching, the Xiao Ao and Kiera did not need to worry too much. Ever since they entered the Heavenly Medicine Mountain Range, this fellow had become talkative. Although his actions sometimes caused one to be furious, he would not fail at crucial moments. In the space of consciousness, Xiao Yan's 5 fingers seemed to be stuck on this page. The Quietus monarch burning flame flowed along his fingertips into his body. While bringing along a powerful force, the unparalleled pain also kept increasing. Hu! Xiao Yan's face was pale, but his eyes were burning with desire. Compared to the burning spell, he only needed to absorb the energy of the monarch flame from the purple golden fragment. Although the pain was unbearable, he still needed to absorb the energy of the monarch flame from the purple golden fragment. Compared to his increased strength, this kind of pain was almost negligible. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. In these 5 days, Kiera and the Xiaoao did not completely relax. Even though the Star Sky Tablet was by their side, the two of them did not dare to lower their guard. Qi Zhang had also woken up. There was nothing wrong with him. It also caused Kiera to obtain a trace of relief in her nervousness. After learning from the latter that he had been unconscious for a couple of days, Qi Zhang did not say anything for a long time. However, he did not insist on leaving. He quietly stayed here and focused on researching the medicine pill that he needed to refine. Xiao Yan's aura also increased day by day. He easily broke through 6,000 monarch cultivation. After that, 7,000, 8,000. Everything seemed to be going smoothly without any signs of stagnation. Although the Xiaoao was nervous, it also revealed a rare smile. Back then, Xiao Yan had absorbed half of the 1,000 leaves ancient monarch fire. He had directly reached the peak of the emperor cultivation. After Jade Fairy's help, the ranking of the Quietus monarch burning flame was about the same as the 1,000 leaves ancient monarch fire. The increase in strength that it brought couldn't be underestimated. 9,000 Dao. The Star Sky Tablet's pupils constricted. Xiao Yan's strength was still rising. If this continued, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break through to the Heavenly Sovereign in one go. The Xiaoao held its breath and focused its mind. Its throat couldn't help but twitch. It secretly glanced at Kiera, who was standing beside it. Its expression changed slightly. Back in Mingan Divine Domain, when Xiao Yan lost his balance between yin and yang, it was all thanks to Jade Fairy's help that he was able to return to normal. If this fellow had completely devoured the Quietus monarch burning flame and lost his balance between yin and yang, would he need Kiera? Thinking of this, the Xiaoao could not help but shake his head. Not to mention that Kiera's brother was still here. Before he left the academy, Xuan and Kai Lin even asked him to help look at Xiao Yan. If this fellow had an additional bad karma because of this, what could he do? It is almost done. In the space of consciousness, Xiao Yan's lips were cracked and his eyes were glowing. He knew his own strength the best. It was not his style to covet pleasure at a time like this. Swoosh! Xiao Yan gritted his teeth and his body trembled. His 5 fingers separated from the page. The Quietus monarch burning flame swayed and energy surged out, causing Xiao Yan's 5 fingers to completely break. His 5 fingers were connected to his heart. A strong pain suddenly spread throughout his body. Xiao Yan couldn't help but roll his eyes. He circulated the situation skill and quickly treated his injuries. The moment Xiao Yan's 5 fingers left the burning spell, the white flame on Xiao Yan's body in the outside world slowly shrank. Finally, it merged into his body. A wisp of dense white flame slowly surged within his body. The Xiao Yi tried to extend its hand and finally touched the latter. The monarch flame merged and entered his body. At this moment, the 5 monarch flames were finally grasped by Xiao Yan. The Star Sky Tablet did not say anything else when it saw this. It waved its large hand and the Star Luo stone cauldron was withdrawn into its sleeve. It turned into a cluster of light that entered Xiao Yan's body. The first round of the pill competition has ended. The town will gather within 3 days. Those who are late will be disqualified. The moment the Star Sky Tablet disappeared, an empty voice suddenly sounded from the void. It seemed to come from the heavens, shaking the entire heavenly medicine mountain range.